Hi, everyone. This is the acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today I'm going to talk about why we do astrology, especially if you have heard me say from time to time that you are not your birth chart, that we are not our birth charts. Then the question could naturally arise, then why do astrology at all? What does the birth chart tell us? Why is it valuable? And so forth. Now, I'm also doing this because a number of students in my classroom have recently sort of posed the question in new and different ways, which has prompted me to think of a new way of presenting the response and kind of presenting the view of ancient astrology that is sort of common across the board from east to west in one way or another. So I hope that you enjoy this today. I'm actually going to take my video off the screen so that you can fully see the really nerdy pictures that I made. I hope that you guys like this. This is kind of a meditation that we're going to go through today. And the question is, why do astrology, especially if I am not my birth chart? Well, let's start off by imagining that this is who you are. You are a little particle of divine consciousness, a little divine particle of the divine whole. Imagine that this is who you are, and imagine that this is what you have always been. Imagine that this is what you will always be. Nothing can change this simple truth. Nothing can actually harm you, and nothing can actually kill you. You exist as a little particle of the divine whole, and this is who you really are. So start here. This is the basic premise that ancient astrology offers us. This is who we are. Now, imagine that as a spirit soul, you have come into a world where you are moving through unending cycles of fluctuation and change between a wide variety of different opposite qualities and experiences: night and day, good and bad, hot and cold, poverty and wealth, pain and joy. And imagine that this realm, complete with all of these fluctuating opposites and experiences, like you, have no beginning and no end. Imagine that when you have experiences in this realm, you start to identify with them through your emotions, through your body, through your mind, and thus you start to identify with these constant fluctuations, forgetting all the while that you are a spirit soul, a little divine spark of the divine whole. Now imagine that this realm is actually just one of innumerable divine realms. And imagine that the hallmark of this particular realm is that divine spirit souls that come here to experience are coming here to experience a temporary illusion of being apart from the divine whole of which they are a part, of being forgetful of their own nature. This is a part of what we come here to see and experience, because even though it's kind of an illusion, it's still something that we can experience. We can still come and experience what it's like to forget, what it's like to see ourselves as apart or separate. And imagine that while you're here, all the while you live with this painful feeling inside that something is missing. And that no matter what you do, you can't seem to find or locate this sense of happiness that you're looking for in any of the experiences that you have, or even any of your greatest accomplishments. Now, imagine that this realm is very intelligent. It's a divine realm after all. It's one of many divine realms. Because it's intelligent and divine, it also operates according to very intricate laws. We'll call them the laws of karma, the laws of material nature. Imagine that this realm facilitates the wishes and desires of each sleeping soul engaging with it, while also constantly sending reminders or feedback, a kind of cosmic sensitivity training, lessons and messages, constantly trying to remind each individual soul experiencing who they really are and what is actually real. In that sense, this realm is always shimmering with reminders of the divine. Imagine that a soul is allowed to be here and explore experiences in this covered state of consciousness for as long as they want. Imagine now that because everything is always changing in this realm, you can't really stay in any situation or place or state of mind or experience or any body too long before it changes. Imagine that each time you're born into a new body, you can't remember the other bodies or experiences that you've had for the most part. Sometimes people can. However, imagine that you will continue exploring similar themes and the carryover from previous experiences and choices will continue in this lifetime. You'll keep doing things that you were doing, experiencing the consequences and sequences of events related to things that you were doing before you passed out of your last body and the body before that, and so on. That's part of how this realm works. There's a continuity of energy moving, but forms change. Imagine now that when you are born into a new body in certain places and at certain times, particularly, let's say, the human body on planet Earth, that there are intelligent mapping systems that can tell you a little bit about where you've been, where you are, and where you're going within this realm. What is this realm really about? And where are you? Maybe even why are you here? Now, this is astrology. Astrology is one such mapping system. Imagine that you can use such a map for one of two basic purposes. If you're asleep and you're really invested in the fluctuations of the opposites and all of the different experiences that one might have in the temporary state of forgetfulness, then you could use the astrological map to help you continue to explore your fantasies and the investments that you have in your desires in this world, worlds upon worlds, in this new body, whatever new body you're in. Astrology can tell you what's going to happen, when you're going to get a raise, or when your money might go up, or when you meet somebody, or when you might experience sickness. Or it could be used alternatively to aid the soul who is entangled in the material nature, in karma, to recall their true nature. In order to learn to read such a map, one would have to know how and why such a map exists in the first place and what kind of reality it describes. Birth charts exist because A, you are an eternal spirit soul, transmigrating through forms within the ever-changing wheel of fortune or karma, which can be mapped and tracked. That is what ancient astrologers told us about reality, and that's what they tell us is at the foundation of astrology itself. This is what was revealed to mystics and seers, asking, what is this place? Why does it exist? Why am I here? Who am I really? What are these fluctuating opposites? Is there something beyond the body? Is there something beyond the end of this lifetime? Have I been here before? Birth charts exist because you are not your karmic experiences, but the one experiencing them. Hence, the study of astrology, ancient astrologers tell us, helps us to navigate the karmic field that we are moving through as consciously as possible, which is to say that we study and anticipate our karmic experiences specifically in order to help us recall who we really are and what is really real. Now, many people will consult birth charts simply because they're invested in the ups and downs of the karmic reality, and we don't fault, flaw, blame, condescend, or look down our noses at anybody for doing so. They may have little to no interest in spiritual awakening, but if they are called to astrology, we consider it to be a very auspicious sign. Because, as ancient astrologers tell us, the study of fate, of karma, implies the existence of an eternal spiritual soul taking birth in a body and experiencing karma. Astrology plants a seed of awakening by demonstrating that there is such a thing as karma and there is such a thing as a spirit soul existing in relationship to the fluctuating world of karma. Over time, this causes the soul to start questioning the nature of karma themselves and of reality, even if at first they're only using it as a way of kind of helping them get towards what they want or avoid what they don't want, and so forth. Once this occurs, and not just through astrology, but through any kind of spiritual awakening, the spirit soul will start to take up spiritual practices or a lifestyle that is consciously aimed at awakening the spirit soul within and seeing it within everyone and everything. As this occurs, although karma will continue, we may still have to take up bodies and have many experiences and walk many different destiny paths in the material universe. Identification with the karma slowly stops as we begin to identify ourselves with the witness, with that eternal conscious self that we are, and with the larger divine whole of which we are a part. We start to see that in everyone and everything and everywhere as well. We start to think a little less about my bank account or my relationships, which are all important experiences in the material world, but we start to think more about how we are having any kind of experience. Are we having it from the center of our very being, from a loving heart, from kindness, mercy, tolerance, compassion, patience? Or are we having it from the place of that thing within us that is rooted in, just get me this thing and I'll feel better. Just help me to avoid that thing and I'll feel better. We start shifting to this idea that our happiness is who we are and not what's happening around us. Now, as this journey unfolds, having a karmic map is incredibly helpful. We look at the wheel of karma because we're still in it. Having a karmic map is incredibly helpful and practically beneficial. Its benefits include the ability to know the kinds of seasons and experiences of life that are coming in this realm, like knowing what kind of weather we are likely to encounter when going outside. We might be spending most of our time and energy trying to awaken, but as we are going, we still have lives to live. And knowing what kinds of life experiences we're going to have helps us to stay steady in our spiritual practices, to stay steady in our spiritual consciousness. Knowing that every experience that we've had once we begin spiritualizing our consciousness is happening for us and for the purpose of spiritual growth. We begin to see the divine messages more clearly. Our experiences become pointers on the road home. Awakening spiritually doesn't happen through doing something that the birth chart tells you to do. It doesn't happen through some kind of step that you have to take that's located in the birth chart. It doesn't matter what the birth chart is or what it says. The kinds of spiritual values, virtues, practices that we are trying to embody that help us to wake up are universally the same. It happens through the cultivation of peace, love, forgiveness, mercy, patience or tolerance, kindness, generosity, steadiness of mind, control of our senses, devotion. We live as beings that are in this world but not of it. We live in this world seeing everything here as divine, but not expecting or attached to anything, because we know that here fluctuation between the dueling opposites is endless and eternal. So the reason that I spend so much time to talk to people through my YouTube channel, through my classrooms and so forth about the importance of spiritual practice is that, in my humble opinion, astrology without a spiritual practice, isn't real astrology. At least it's not what it's designed to do. Astrology, along with Ayurveda, is part of the yogic path. Astrology in the ancient world is part of the accompaniment of a contemplative life, a meditative life. It helps us to see the divine, see the archetypal, eternal forms, the patterns in the mind of God flowing through our experiences all the time. We can do this and live lives. We can do this and reflect upon our behavior and our attitudes and our dispositions. It has so many different beautiful uses. But when astrology is being used primarily to double down on our investment in the karmic circles and cycles, it doesn't really do much. It does its best when we go on living our life, pulled as we are by destiny to live a life, all the while attempting to be spiritual, attempting to awaken. And there are so many different ways that we can do so. My own practice of bhakti yoga emphasizes devotional love of God through things like chanting and study of the stories of the scriptures, making sure you hang out with spiritual people, taking care of the temple of your body and mind. But there are so many other traditions and practices that emphasize similar things. As we are practicing in awakening, we are learning to do so in and through our experiences. And because we have a tendency to become unconscious and fall asleep in our material experiences, having a karmic map to look at, like the birth chart, is like having a co-pilot to help us keep awake while driving at night. So birth charts are incredibly useful because they help to keep us awake to the nature of the karmic reality that we're in as we're in it, navigating en route to spiritual awakening. The reason that I also tell people not to use the possessive too much when referring to their own birth charts, for example, my Mars, my Venus, my Sun, my Moon, and the reason I generally recommend not obsessing too much over your own birth chart, I certainly don't recommend that you not look at it at all. It serves a great purpose. It can certainly help us to stay conscious and aware of where we tend to get hung up, of what types of things are happening, of what kinds of seasons of life we're going through, and being able to identify the different archetypal gods and patterns within our experiences helps us stay in spiritual consciousness. But the reason that I don't recommend saying my Mars, my Venus so much is because we, at the end of the day, are not our charts. Remember that this little guy in the middle here, or little spiritual spark, is the one who's looking at the birth chart. And that being is eternally beautiful, blissful, truthful, knowledgeable, already, always has been, always will be. That's who we are. And that's the one that's looking at the chart. So this is the thing that we're looking for. The map just tells us where that thing that we're looking for is and what it's up to right now. So I hope that you have enjoyed this little presentation and that it serves as a good reminder of why we do astrology. And also, let me just stop sharing this here, why we do astrology and how beautiful it is as a tool that can accompany us in on a spiritual path in life. And for all of my students who've been asking questions about this particular aspect of the way that I teach, hopefully this is explanatory and helpful as well. Because you can imagine some students in my classroom, when they hear me like, look, you're not your chart, and the chart is just describing the lay of the land. They're like, wait a sec, what's going on here? The chart was supposed to be really helpful for our spiritual life, and it is. So hopefully this has offered a good explanation. And the other thing is, of course, I also say this just to be fair to my audience of people out there who may not adopt any kind of spiritual or religious views. I also, because I happen to believe that it's planting a seed in you for future lifetimes, feel free to watch my channel and dismiss what I'm saying. So, okay, that's what I've got for you guys. I hope you're having a good one. Take it easy.